Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get into chapter 8.1, the first lesson. Of course, this unit is going to get into business organizations and types of business organizations that are out there. We will be talking about forms of business organizations and, of course, how our business is formed and how they grow. So that's going to be our focus for today. Now, we have this chart right here. We don't really need to write this chart in. It'll be on the notes as we go through. So, but we will be talking about these four different types of businesses today. So, the forms of businesses. Now, of course, we see here how are businesses formed and how do they grow. Okay, the three main forms of business organizations in the economy today are a sole proprietorship, a partnership, and then a corporation. Then on the bottom there, of course, it says four, and there's only three. The last one is a franchise, and of course, we'll talk about what that is. It's a hybrid business called a franchise. It's also popular and combines investment opportunities and ownership. So we will be discussing all of those points today. So, sole proprietorship. Now, of course, when we talk about businesses, we talk about the businesses that are out there that we frequent. Of course, these businesses, they produce some kind of service, some kind of product, good or service that we all make use of. So, of course, the sole proprietorships are the most common types of business in the U.S., okay? Sole proprietorship is basically where you go into business for yourself. I mean, we've used the example before, but you set up the lemonade stand and sell the lemonade. You go to the farmer's market. You get that lawnmower and take it down the street and ask people if you would like them to mow their lawn, okay? That's a way that you are a sole proprietor. You are the business, basically. Okay, so because proprietorships are basically one-person operations, they comprise the smallest form of business. Okay, so there's not as many, excuse me, anyway, sorry about that, had a little hiccup. Anyway, back to what we're talking about here. So these are, these people are usually small businesses, maybe a plumber, let's say, an electrician that just kind of works by themselves. These people, they are the business. Them and the business are really, one and the same. So we have examples here. We also have things like lawyers, plumbers, hairstylists. Of course, you can grow one employee at a time. Sometimes that sole proprietorship, you might have one, maybe two other employees with you, but you are the main facet of that business. Okay, so there are advantages of this, okay? So, of course, it's easy to start up. Anybody that's listening to this video can start their own business. You can, again, like I said, it can be something small. It could be you take that lawnmower and you take it down the street and knock on doors and ask to mow lawns. I mean, that you are basically a business at that point because you are doing a service for money, okay? They're simple management because, of course, you're managing yourself. Now the thing on that is, it's obvious it's really difficult to call in sick to yourself. Okay, you take care of your work ethic. If you need to make more money, you work longer hours. If you're happy with the money, you can work less hours. But again, it's easy to manage that way. Okay, owners can keep all the profits because again, you are the person that's working, and especially if you're working by yourself, you keep all the money you get. Okay. Does not have to pay separate business income taxes because the business is not recognized as a separate legal entity. Because like I said before, you and the business are one and the same. Okay, they don't have a separate business that they see you as being a separate business than yourself when it comes to taxes. Now, there's also psychological satisfaction many people get from being their own boss. Okay, so that's always a good thing. You don't have to answer to anybody else. You just pretty much answer to yourself. Next, there are disadvantages. Of course, the main disadvantage, main disadvantage of a proprietorship is the owner of the business has unlimited liability. So what that means is this, and you see, Bob's Heating and Plumbing here. So let's say old Bob comes in and he decides to fix your house. Okay, he fixes your plumbing, but in the midst of him fixing your plumbing, he busts a line and floods your entire house. Okay, well that liability is on Bob. Bob is the one, he owns the business. Bob is the one that has liability. He's got to pay for that. He's got to carry the insurance for that. Bob is the one that has to, is in charge of all of that aspect. As opposed to like a big plumbing company where, let's say, Bob is just one of the plumbers out of 100 plumbers that this company employs. Well, if Bob busts a line and floods the house, then that company is liable. They pay for the business, or they pay for the insurance and pay for the damages, not Bob himself. Now, Next, of course, is difficulty raising financial capital, because it is, when you are just the only person working on it, it's hard to get backers. It's hard to get people to come in and want to support your business if you are the only person working on it. Okay. So I guess it says you often have to raise financial capital by tapping savings, using credit cards, or borrowing from friends or family. So a lot of times, yes, those people max up their credit cards, they drain their savings to try to get their businesses running, hoping that business will take off. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times, those businesses do not, which kind of leave those people bankrupt. Now, you also have limited managerial experience. A lot of people that do this, again, they sometimes people do break off from a business that they had before and decide to go off on their own, but a lot of times they don't. They just try to do it square one and start working, and maybe they don't have that managerial experience. Again, like I said, it's difficulty attracting qualified employees. I mean, again, if you're Bob's Plumbing, it's hard to get somebody to come work at Bob's Plumbing if they're a good seasoned plumber. They can probably go work for one of these big businesses, one of these big plumbing companies, and be able to make more money and have more clients and have more work than just being at Bob's Plumbing. So sometimes it's hard to get those more qualified people in. And then, of course, the sole proprietorships have limited life, okay? Sometimes these businesses don't go real long, and at the same time, since the person in the business are one and the same, if something happened to Bob, if Bob got sick or Bob died, that business ends. That's the end of the business. It's done. As opposed to, let's say, like Walmart. I mean, it's owned by the Walton family. Well, Walmart will probably be around long after the Waltons are gone, are dead and gone. So that business goes on forever. I mean, for example, like Disney. Walt Disney has been dead for years, but Disney is still a product that's out there, still a business that's out there. Okay, moving on. All right, unlimited liability, of course, we talk about what unlimited liability is. Like I said, equals the debt, means that if you are the sole proprietor, you are the one that's financially responsible for everything in the business. Okay, now, yeah, you get to keep the profits, but at the same time, you're the one that, excuse me, that is in charge of that business. Okay, so most common situation equals debts owed when the business experiences financial difficulties or failures. Again, you need to pay your people. Your people expect to get paid. And if you can't get any work, or you can't get any, say in Bob's Plumbing, you can't get any plumbing jobs, your employees are still expecting to get paid whether you're bringing in money or not. If a business is not fully insured, there is also a possibility of loss due to disaster. Okay, so again, that you're driving that plumbing van and the plumbing van's engine blows out, you got to buy that new engine, you got to buy that new van, and that's a big expense, and that comes on you. Unlimited liability means that owners' personal assets can be used to pay for debts of the business. So again, sometimes you have to sell those things, or they get repossessed and things like that to pay for this business. Now, moving on. Now, the next is a partnership. Now, what we see in a partnership is, in here you see general partnerships. Partners have equal decision-making authority, and each partner has unlimited liability. So basically what a partnership is a joining of two proprietorships, okay? So you get the two sole proprietors basically decide to get together and combine their businesses into one. So again, you might have the kid that started off by pushing that lawnmower down the street, asking people if they wanted their lawns mowed. Well, then he gets maybe with another kid that's doing the same thing, or attaches himself with a group of 2 or 3 people, and they all get together and start mowing more lawns at that time. Now, again, limited partnerships. Partners join as investors. Okay, you might get people to come in and invest in your lawn company if you start mowing more lawns. Partners have an active role in decision making. Okay, and partners have limited liability. So what this basically limited partner means is you have your general partnership where you have the actual people that get out there and get their hands dirty and work. Okay, and then sometimes you have your limited partners of people that may just invest in your business. They don't want to go mow lawns, but they may invest money in your business. And again, they're going to expect to have a little bit something in return. So if you go out and mow, when you're mowing by yourself, when you're a sole proprietor, if you're able to mow like 3 lawns in a day, and you made $40 a lawn, let's say, and you made $120. Well, now when you're a partner, you and your partner, between the two of you, can mow 10 lawns a day. Between you and your 2 partners, let's say, can mow 10 lawns a day at $40 a lawn. Well, now you're making $400 a day. Well, if somebody invested money and helped you get a leaf blower or an edger or a another lawnmower, let's say. Well, they may have given you a little bit of money. Well, they may expect out of that $400 you're making a day, they may expect $20 back or something along that, or $10 back a day to kind of get a return on their investment. So those limited partners do do have demands on kind of going both ways. And like it says here, growth requires legal papers to add. Okay, is to add these partners. So you can add these partners, and again, that gives them gives you a legal obligation both ways. Them giving you the money, and then of course them getting a return on their investment. Okay. Advantages of partnerships, okay? So it's easy to set up, easy to start up. Just like those sole proprietors, it's easy to start up. Ease of management. Each partner usually brings a different area of expertise to the business. One might have a talent for marketing, another for production, another for bookkeeping, finance, and so forth. No separate business tax, because again, you're all still seen as being sole proprietors. You're not seen as being a business and then being an individual person. You're all kind of being, your business and you are one and the same. And then, of course, partnerships can usually attract financial capital more easily because, again, it's people will more likely try to invest in your company or give you money if it's multiple people working on a job instead of just being a one-person operation. All right. Now, disadvantages of partnerships. Of course, unlimited liability by the partners. So let's say that you partner up with someone mowing lawns, and not you, but your partner is mowing a lawn and their lawnmower kicks a rock and breaks a window in somebody's big house. Well, guess what? That paying for that window comes out of both of your cuts, not just out of that person's cut. So you have unlimited liability still. Limited life, because again, if you don't grow, if you don't add more people, those companies will usually die out. And then, of course, conflict between partners. Okay, not all the time does everybody agree on everything, and it's going to cause a lot of times there to be conflict between partners, which is not always a good thing. Okay, they can fight things out, they can disagree on things, and sometimes those disagreements cause a lot of those partners to walk away from each other and not be partners any longer. Now, next one is going to be corporations. Okay, now these corporations are legally distinct from owners and treated as if they were individuals. They own property, hire workers, make contracts, pay taxes, plaintiffs or defendants in lawsuits, make and sell products. These companies are organized in corporations food, which is like steel and oil. Industries like food, steel, and oil. Insurance companies, supermarket chains, things like that. Now, when we talk about corporations, again, we look at this, the corporations are now these separate entities, okay? So it's not, like I said, where the sole proprietorship or the partnership where you and the business are one and the same. Now you have the person and you have the business. The business can own products. The business can own, trucks and capital and land and all that stuff. And that's not necessarily the person's business. So let's say you were owned a business, you owned some big corporation and you had a fleet of trucks. Well, the truck kind of owns those businesses. The business owns those trucks. Those trucks aren't like your personal property to take home and drive on the weekends and do whatever you want. They're a part of the business, okay? Now, usually in these, like I said, they own property. They own the land that the business sits on. They hire workers. Okay, they make contracts, they pay their own separate taxes, all of that stuff. They make and they sell their products, the whole 9 yards. Now, in these corporations, of course, a lot of these corporations have these charters. So you can see here, people who want to incorporate or form a corporation must file for permission from the national government or the state when their business has its headquarters. So it's got to be in that state. Now, these corporations are generally going to be these partnerships that end up growing, and the partnerships become bigger and bigger and bigger until you can become a corporation where that business can kind of branch off and be separate from you at that point. But again, you have to have this government permission, this incorporation. Now, if approved, a charter or a government document that gives the permission to create the corporation is granted. The charter states that the company's name, address, purpose, and other features of the business. So that charter's got to be there. It's kind of like their constitution. It's kind of like their rule of laws that they have to adhere to, okay? And if they don't adhere to it, they can lose their business. Let's see. Okay, so corporate structures, okay? Of course, on this, a lot of times when it comes to structures, these businesses, these corporations, when you do incorporate, you can sell stock in your business. Now, there are going to be two different kinds of stock. There's going to be common stock and preferred stock. Common stock represents basic ownership of a corporation, okay? Each share of common stock usually has one vote to elect a board of directors. Now, what that means is common stock If you go out and you buy stock, let's say, or get common stock in HEB, let's say, okay? Now, if you buy enough of it, you get a high enough percentage, you own a certain amount of shares of that company. You own portions of that company. So if you own a large enough percentage when it comes to any kind of decision making or bylaws or whatever, your voice matters. You can get a vote when it comes to this thing. Like I said, to get these board of directors, let's say. Now, a preferred stock is probably what's more people have in stocks. With more are the stocks that people end up buying. So the preferred stocks represents non-voting ownership or shares of a corporation. Preferred stockholders cannot vote for the directors, but they receive their dividends before common stockholders receive theirs. So preferred stock is like if you go on an E-Trade or there's regular stock market where you buy like Apple, like shares of Apple, let's say. You buy shares of Apple. There's generally a preferred stock. It's usually a low percentage where you don't have a voice. You're not going to call up the people at Apple and say, here's my ideas for the next iPhone. You're going to just kind of be basically an investor. Like we talked about how investors were before under a partnership, you're basically just an investor. And like it says now, being an investor, of course, you will get your returns on your money before people that have common stock. But again, at the same time, you will also lose money faster than common stock will if the stock goes down. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between a preferred stock and a common stock. Next, okay, so the corporations. Now, of course, they do have advantages of these corporations. The first advantage is going to be easy to raise capital. Again, if you are a corporation, if you are incorporated by the government, you can buy and sell stock. It's easy to raise this capital. We'll see a slide for that in just a second. You also have limited liability, professional managers, unlimited life, and easy to transfer ownership. So let's look here. Of course, disadvantages. Oh, let's see. Do we not have that? Oh, yeah. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, easy to raise capital. Again, people will invest in you if you are an established company. Limited liability. Okay, again, if you own, it's HEB, let's say, and someone slips and falls and hurts themselves in an HEB store, the owner of HEB or the manager of that store is not going to have to pay for that. The company has that liability. They have insurance in place for situations like that pay for that. Professional managers, again, people usually go to school, get business degrees, managerial degrees, and they want to go work for these bigger businesses. Okay, they don't generally want to go work for these small little partnerships and small little proprietorships. They go to school, they become educated to work in these massive businesses. So that they kind of attract those type of professional managers. Now, of course, unlimited life. Those businesses go far beyond the people that started them. Okay, because again, it kind of gives them the life of their own when they become these corporations. So, like I said, Disney. Walt Disney has been dead for many, many, many years, but Disney lives on because it is a corporation. It is a massive corporation. It would take a lot to bring down a company like a Disney or an Apple or a Microsoft or an Amazon. Next, easy to transfer ownership. Okay, basically what happened there is that whoever the CEO or whoever gets voted in by the board, they can change whoever is the kind of the top dog in that organization. You can also buy stock in that organization and give you a common stock in that organization to give you kind of a portion of the ownership. Okay. Next, disadvantages of corporations. Okay, of course, they're double taxation. Okay, so they get taxed as a corporation, and then you individually get taxed as well as being a worker. Difficult to start up because, like we talked about and we watched Tucker. It's very difficult to start these corporations. Not just anybody can become incorporated. Your business has to kind of be around for a while, be established, have profits, the whole thing. Owners don't run the firm, okay? The people run the firm. The stockholders have a say, so the board of directors are the ones that run the firm. And then, of course, government regulations. And because you are incorporated, you have to kind of follow with the government bylaws. Okay, so we're going to start this video. I'm going to pause my video right now. So please watch this video and then we will pick up right afterward. Okay, continuing on. So you watched the video about franchises, okay? So let's talk about franchises. So franchises are, what are the advantages and disadvantages of investing in franchise for both the franchise and franchisor? Now, a franchise is a business investment that involves renting or leasing another firm's successful business model. So in essence, if a corporation comes out and again, they've done something that's successful, they've done something that's big, and they're a recognizable brand, okay? You can become what's known as a franchisee, okay? So in essence, McDonald's, for example, probably one of the most recognizable franchises in the world is McDonald's. If you decide you want to open up your own McDonald's, of course, you can't just do this off the, at a spur of the moment. You've got a lot of stuff you have to do to kind of get up to that point. Okay. Now, a lot of times McDonald's and some of these franchises, they require you to have some experience working at a McDonald's or experience running a restaurant, things like that. So it's just not just some random person, because again, they want to make sure that their product is going to be out there and be successful. They don't want, and they want to make sure that their stores are going to be clean and be presentable, and that you are, representing their product in a proper way instead of just kind of doing it your own way. So a lot of times on these, there are some pretty steep things you have to do to get a franchise running. But if you follow their rules and if you have the money for startup, you will generally have a pretty successful business. But understand, the franchisors, which is like McDonald's corporate, they have kind of say in what you do. Okay, they want to make sure, again, their product is being sold, their standards are being kept, and if you don't keep those standards and if you don't do what they want, then they can always pull your franchise from you. Okay, so let's look at this now. So of course your franchisor. So of course we talked about the franchisor is the actual owner of the business that lets other investors rent or lease its name, business profile, and way of doing business. Now, again, they don't just do it out of the kindness of their heart. They do it to make money, and they do it so that you run that business the way they say that business is run. The franchisee is an investor who rents or leases the business model from the franchisor, then hopes to recoup his or her investment by selling off the franchisor's goods or services. Or selling the franchisor's goods or services. So again, if you open a McDonald's, you will have you will guaranteed pretty much make money. Okay, people are going to recognize McDonald's. People are going to want to go to your store, so they understand that yes, you have to do what they want, sell their product the way they want it to be done. Now, of course, advantages of franchises is, first of all, national advertising. Okay, if you buy a McDonald's or you become get a McDonald's franchise, you don't have to pay for commercials. Okay, the commercials are already out there. You don't have to pay for advertising. You don't have to pay for recognition. People know. Okay, when they drive down the highway and they see that big M on your sign, they know what kind of product is there. They don't have to become familiar with your product. Okay, parent company's name. Again, we kind of mentioned that. It's recognizable. Lower cost to start up a business. Okay, so again, it would be very difficult for you to start your own McDonald's type restaurant as opposed to just being one of their franchises. And then, of course, customer recognition. People know it. They don't have to become familiar with your product. They already know that product. Now, disadvantages, again, like I said, high startup cost, okay? A thing like McDonald's, because they know that McDonald's is going to be a money-making business, it usually costs $1 to $2 million. At this point, $1 to $2 million to start your own McDonald's, okay? Plus royalties, which means they are going to get a portion of everything you sell. McDonald's corporate gets a portion of that money. So they get all that stuff. So it is very, it's a good opportunity, but again, they're always going to want their part on the back end. Okay, so I think that is it. That is the end of Chapter 8, Section 1. So please look forward to Section 2. All right, thank you.